I am calling to order this meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, February 10th of 2026. If you are joining us by Zoom, then you have likely found the link from the packet to the Zoom meeting. If you are interested in making comments during the meeting, you can use the raised hand function or the chat function to let us know that you would like to make a public comment. First up on our agenda this evening is messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board?
Just one from me, just a reminder that next meeting week, I'm traveling for work. I'll be completely unavailable for the work session, and it's highly unlikely I'll be available for the regular session.
Thank you. Next up, we have appeals. Under appeals, we have Beacon Builders appeal for notice of violation for Acuff Road closure.
Good evening, Kyle Ball, Engineering Right-of-Way Program Manager. So just a little background on this particular NOV. So we had a permit that was issued on August 18th of 2025 through September 1st of 2025. So we had worked through all those nuances, and on September 10th of 2025, we did contact the permit holder via email to notify them that the roadway was required to be reopened no later than September 17th, 2025, and then that enforcement action was possible after that date. They did respond the same day and indicated that on September 18th, that asphalt would be laid to reopen that roadway. So on September 25th, staff was able to confirm that the roadway still remained closed beyond that additional approved permit date, and communicated that we needed a compliance deadline, which ended in a NOV being issued, or notice of violation, on September 29th of 2025 for failure to reopen that roadway. During that period, we had a few complaints that had come in from public, some via U-Report, some phone calls. Just to note that, they were unsettled by the closure extension, with the nature, or the location rather, being adjacent to the school there and also Meadows Hospital. As part of that NOV enforcement action, an administrative extension was granted through October 3rd of 2025 at the permit holder's request. This timeline also was delayed in reaching an opening of that roadway. This additional time, rereading here. So this was a provision within that notice of violation that we reissued an extension for that time frame, which was then granted. So that was a stipulation there. So that was the first NOV that was issued for this site. So that was all background. The current NOV that is under appeal is laid out in this section. So on October 3rd of 2025, the permit holder submitted an additional request for an extension. However, that request was not approved because at that point, the closure had already been in place for roughly 53 days, based on that 14-day original request. So staff determined that further extensions were not reasonable or consistent with good right-of-way management practices. Despite that approved extension, which expired on October 3rd, the roadway did remain closed until October 6th of 2025. So that was the period that the second notice of violation was issued for. That is on the docket tonight. We as a staff feel that we worked really hard to try and work with the applicant to make it be known that when these roadways need to be reopened. And I know that there's extenuating circumstances sometimes that it might be outside of the control, but that thoroughfare is very important, obviously, with all the adjacent properties that it was affecting. So our recommendation is that we uphold. Happy to take any questions, and I believe, sorry. Okay.
Thank you. Now we have the opportunity to hear from the appellant, if the appellant would like to make any comments. And if you'll state your name.
My name
please.
is Jim Bohr. I'm from Clendenning, Johnson & Bohr. I'm here representing Beacon Builders, and also here is Bill Evans from Beacon Builders. We're here to appeal the NOV that Kyle just laid out for you. I'd like to first remind you what the purpose of the UDO section 2006-100 is for the assessment of fines for NOVs. It's to punish bad behavior, to force compliance with UDO, and to discourage future non-compliance with people that aren't following the purposes of the UDO. Also, when interpreting the UDO itself says it should be based upon the clear and plain meaning of the provision's wording, the intended purpose of the provision, the general purposes ought to be served by the UDO, and there ought to be consistency with the comprehensive plan. When you look at these facts, in this particular situation, you will see that Beacon applied for and obtained permission for the road closure, so they didn't avoid asking for permission. The road was finally open to traffic in October of 2025. Seems like a really long time to have the road closed, but did they just not work when they should have worked? Did they slow down? Work this thing? Did they not pay attention? No. What happened was they encountered a lot of unforeseen problems in the construction. Here's what happened. They found a fiber optic line. It wasn't mapped on any of the city's maps. Then when they did the locate didn't know it was there, didn't find it either. They started digging, and there was a fiber optic line. Nobody knew who owned it. They had to figure out who even owned it to contact the owner and see if they could move it. Then they found a water valve. It wasn't on the locate. It wasn't on the map either. Then they had to move that. So they had to redraw the plans. They had to go back to engineering, ask if they could move that to a different location, and then redo their construction based on that water valve. Then when they did the subbase compaction failed, and they had to go back and redo that. Then they found a second water valve. The second water valve had to be relocated in the plans as well. They had to redraw the plans, go back to engineering, get approval for that, redraw the plans, move some things around, and do some things differently. So all those things led to delays. It wasn't that they were just lollygagging around and not doing things. They found lots of problems when they went to construct this road. They opened the road as quickly as they could. They got extensions. They asked for extensions. They got several extensions. When they went back to get the last extension, they told them, no, sorry, we've been getting some calls. But the last extension they got, they were waiting on utilities to be moved. Comcast, Duke, and other utility companies were doing their work out there. It's like pushing a string up a hill. You can't move them any quicker. And the utility companies were out there doing their work, yes. But Beacon, the people that you're trying to find or that the city has fined, excuse me, are not the ones that were delaying the work at that point. It was the utility companies, and they had to wait for them to finish their work before they could finish paving and finish the work. So what's the bottom line here? If you fine the builder, you're going to make the houses that the builder is building out there more expensive. We've heard a lot about affordable housing in this county, in this city. You're going to make the houses that they're building and selling more expensive. So are you going to make it so that the builder doesn't do this again? They did everything they could. They tried to comply, they tried to be timely, they tried to do everything that they possibly could to comply, but it just didn't work this time. And what's the purpose of the fine in this case? It's just not going to serve the purpose of the UDO. So we're asking for a waiver. We think that it's appropriate in this case to waive it. We think that the fine serves no purpose that the UDO would have that a fine was set out for in the penalty section, and that fine would penalize not the builder in this case, but future homeowners by making their homes more expensive. So we ask you to consider that, to take that into account, and not to assess the fine in this particular case, to use your discretion to waive the fine and to say, my goodness, in this case, the builder did everything possible. They tried to do it. They tried to do it right. They tried to follow the rules, but it just didn't work out. And it would not be fair, it would not be reasonable to assess a fine under these conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, questions from the board on this item?
I have a question about the fine structure. I don't know if this is for Kyle or Audrey, but if the background of what you mentioned tonight is a separate notice of appeal, and we are only looking at the notice, the NOV from October 3rd to October 6th, why did the fines continue building instead of starting again with that October 4th date?
Right, so the fine schedule that's on the basis of this second NOV, so whenever we have a fine type that's a violation of Title 12, we would double that fine for every occurrence for the permit holder. So the amounts are based off that first NOV. That first NOV, I believe, was issued late September, early October, and the appeal deadline was technically 7 days after. So that fine amount was based on that original fine. That original fine NOV has not been settled yet.
But the starting rate per day essentially is the same fine type as the earlier. So even though we're considering the two NOVs separately, that's why this particular fine starts with the full amount of $7,500 on October 4th.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
And just to clarify some of those details, because I had similar questions. The first set of fines that were part of the background issue, you said those haven't been settled yet. By that, do you mean, was there an appeal put forward and the appeal submission denied because of timing? Or what's happening with that first set?
Correct. So we had, like I said, that was issued late September, early October. We got the actual appeal for that NOV with this actual appeal. So that came December timeframe whenever this second one was issued. So this one was within time. As far as where we're at in the process with that first one, I might have to lean on Miranda.
So any appeals that are filed after the 7-day time period are not seen by the Board of Public Works unless they're authorized to be seen by our legal department. So I only received the set of appeal for the second violation that was within the time frame.
Okay.
So the other appeals, if there was an appeal put forward for those would be with our legal department, deciding whether we will see those since they were issued in September but not filed for appeal until December, past the appeal deadline. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you.
Some questions about the timeline. During the timeline that we were talking about and the complications that arose during the construction, was there good communication back and forth? Was the city officials aware of the problems that the developer was experiencing?
So no, Bill was in pretty regular contact with some of our staff members. We were in a bit of a staff transition at that time, so we didn't have the line of sight to it that we would typically have or would want to have. So that's why we came in when we did, and wanted to give the opportunity to correct with these deadlines and offer those administrative extensions, things of that nature. And then, so the submissions, or sorry, the extensions that were granted were based off the dates that Beacon was giving us.
And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, just a follow-up to the problems that were laid out, the fiber optic line, the water valves, are those atypical, or do you see those sorts of things in construction projects often?
So those are fairly common, I'll say. Really the tough part of it is, do we, and just thinking grand picture here, if we're looking at a build out of a new development or a redevelopment of something like that nature, ideally we're relocating all those utilities well ahead of time of that structure or that new roadway being built in that area. So that's what we ran into. We were kind of doing two things at the same time. So some of that goes into project management, but there are unseen circumstances, fairly common.
You're welcome to approach the microphone, and you can state your name and offer your response.
Thank you. My name is Bill Evans. I'm with Beacon Builders. Just real quick, we started working with Duke January of 2025 on the relocation of the power. We have been working with Duke for a year and a half to get power to our facilities, or to our subdivision. Tomorrow, they're going to have it in line. They finally got it done. So we started working with them that long, and even when the road was open, it has taken us from October to February to get them to give us power. And believe me, I'm not the type of person to let things go. And we've tried our best to do that. The communications with AT&T was really good. They helped us out. They moved things right along. They offered Comcast to move their lines while they were there. Comcast rejected and held us up for 3 weeks. And we had to pay them their $18,000 to move their lines off the poles. We started if Duke would have been in there the way they were supposed to, they would have had it done a month before we started. Duke went to North Carolina on an emergency because of the hurricanes and the thing. They left for 3 weeks and didn't come back. We had no control over that. We tried. And I just wanted to point it out that that problem was 90% of the time. And had we wait till they got back to open up to start the road, we wouldn't be out building homes right now. We'd be another 3 months down the road. And we couldn't do that because we started the process in December of 2024, and we're now 2 years later starting to build homes. So thank you for your time.
I do have a question while you're here.
Sure.
What was the first date you requested an extension of that road closure to city staff?
Kyle was correct. It was after the second week time period on the 25th.
Okay,
Yeah, his timelines are correct.
okay.
But we did have Phil Peden and a lot of your managers out on site the day that something happens to help us work through these problems. But with the fiber optic line, with water valves, with storm sewers that needed to be fixed, we just had so much going on. We also kept the sidewalk open the whole time that we were working for individuals to walk. That was never shut down or closed while we were working. And I did speak with some neighbors while we were out there, and I did get 1 or 2 phone calls, but I didn't get, and I did speak with the dispatcher, Scott, with the schools. So we were in constant communication. However, my name was on the notice of the public notice that was sent out with my phone number and my email. So we responded to anything that we could. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question for Kyle, if I may. You mentioned in the staff report that the extension, the administrative extension that was granted through October 3rd was explicitly tied to the original NOV. Can you explain little bit more of that?
Yes, sorry, I was trying to recollect there. So whenever we write an NOV, if there's some corrective action that we're needing to have done, along with the issuance of the actual fines themselves, there might be a list of items of special provisions, if you will, things that we need to remediate the situation and consider those closed out. As part of that, we requested a new timeline to be added to the existing permit.
With no recusal of the fines that had been amassed since then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Along those same lines, I'm curious what consideration you gave or the city gave in terms of the second request for extension, and if you could explain a little bit about the nature of the complaints that you did receive from the public, and how this closure might have impacted them.
Yeah, so the complaints that we received were basically just, in consideration of the location. As we know, that's a pretty used thoroughfare with the high school and with the hospital there. So those complaints came in via at least one U-report and a couple of phone calls over the course of, that closure. And those were stemmed off of whenever we look into the our mapping system of our closures that are, emergency services, school system, all of those use that same mapping system. The original closure date had surpassed that noted date in that system.
I guess what I'm asking is, in what sort of situation might you have granted that additional extension?
It's very context-based, I'll say. In this case, we knew that the extension had already been granted previously. We were well past that original 14-day window. And in reality, we need those things to be called out early and often in these large, complex projects. Ideally, we're looking at the entire list of utility relocations, how that timeline interacts, what the critical path is to getting all those done to where the work for the actual development can start.
Are there
Hey,
other
folks,
questions
Adam
from the
Wason here,
board? Oh, yep.
Adam.
It looks like we have
Adam's on.
Mr. Wason. Go ahead.
Sorry, if I may. Apologies, I'm not in person tonight. I did not want to spread any germs around the room. And just wanted to kind of make a couple comments here. Public Works Director for the City of Bloomington, and Mr. Evans, we haven't met yet. Apologize that we haven't met. Just wanted to make a couple comments here real quick. These situations are difficult to navigate and manage. As the appellants kind of talked about, challenges with the utility relocations, unforeseen site conditions, et cetera. I think Kyle made some good points there right towards the end about how, trying to, unforeseen circumstances are one thing, but with the utility relocations, with all of the developments we have around the city, we consistently hear about some challenges with utility relocations and timelines not matching up with what developers want and need for their developments compared to what the utility companies are able to provide. So that's, something that, it's a challenge across the board. And our hope is that when we get to the point that we're actually going to be closing city streets, is that that's going to be taken into account and figured out well in advance of that closure to do the streets themselves. The other part I want to make here, point I want to make here, and I always try to make comment about, staff's in difficult positions here in the sense that, the attorney for the appellant was referring to, some UDO, Unified Development Ordinance standards and such. We have a lot of standards in city code that we're asked to uphold as city staff members. And Kyle and the team in engineering do a fantastic job of trying to understand site circumstances and other things while trying to protect the public's use of the right of way as well. So that's the challenge here. I'm struggling on how to go about this one and how to advise the board. In the end, we had a road that was closed for an extended period of time beyond what was permitted. That's why the NOVs were issued. You've heard from Mr. Evans that, hurricanes in North Carolina can affect things in Bloomington, Indiana. Absolutely. And that's part of the challenge with these developments and such. I do want to also make one comment here and just make note that, I apologize, I did not catch the attorney's name, but, the notion that, fines like these are going to lead to higher home prices for the people that will eventually move into these homes. I understand that correlation could be made, but I also want to be very cautious to say we have these parts of city code and these fine structures in place to make sure that we are be able to hold developers accountable, hold people that are using the public right of way accountable, and to make it a comment about affordability. I don't know that can be the correlation to be made there, or if I appreciate that correlation in that sense. We're tasked with also trying to balance, the public's use of the right-of-way with trying to assist developers and others that are trying to build homes in the community. Yes, we all recognize we want more housing at an affordable price and such, but I want to be cautious with that argument. I do defer to the board here. I don't know if I would. I defer to the board here on the decision based on what's been supplied to you this evening, and appreciate all the consideration that goes into these tough decisions.
Thank you. I do have one other just clarifying question. It's already been asked, but I want to just make sure I have total understanding. The way that the fine schedule is assessed is based on the permit and the permit holder. So when a permit holder has a permit, the fine is assessed on day one, and it continues to accumulate across those days. Even if the property comes into compliance or the right-of-way comes into compliance and then goes out of compliance, because it's based on the same permit, the fee schedule continues based on that permit and permit holder. I just want to make sure I fully understand. It looks like we have legal interpretation.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a clarification real quick. So even though this situation happened within a subdivision, the NOV was issued under Title 12, which guides the right-of-way closure and the permit structure that goes with that. And so under Title 12, let me just read it. Any violation as defined herein is hereby declared a common and public nuisance. So the way the penalties and violations are assessed under the UDO and Title 12 is different, so I just want to make sure the board is cognizant of that distinction. And then as far as the penalty is concerned, so if you look at the code, a penalty is not tied to a permit. It's tied to the number of violations that this contractor has committed over a 3-year period. So regardless of whether the previous violation happened under a different permit, the code looks at how many violations were there before that, before the clock sets again after the 3-year period
Okay,
passes.
so it's based on a 3-year period of in this case, contractor or permit holder not associated with the permit, but the
Correct. It
holder
could be for
itself.
this location or it could be for another location. It doesn't matter.
Okay,
And under different permits as well.
okay, all right. Thank you. That is exactly what I needed to understand.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. All right. Other questions from the board?
If I may, I'm going to just jump in one more time here.
Sure.
Adam Wason again, Public Works. I was trying to ask Audrey over email. I'm not sure on how these appeals. We don't have too many of these come to the board. So, in terms of logistically, is it possible to table this decision for the time being to have some further negotiations and conversations with the developer about this specific NOV and or is it one where the board is, with it being publicly noticed, is there a decision required today?
Does the board have the power to table?
Hi, Audrey Brittingham, City Attorney. Yes, I agree that the board can table it. Alex agrees with me as well, so I think that's totally within the board's authority.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, without being next to Kyle to ask him if he's okay with this, I guess I'd ask the board to table this one for right now while we have some further negotiations, discussions about this specific fine. And then if we needed to, we can bring it back at a subsequent meeting.
Thanks for that recommendation. Any questions from the board? All right, do we have a motion from the board?
I move that we table the appeal in front of us, the Beacon Builders Appeal for Notice of Violation for Acuff Road closure, until further discussion and potentially future meeting as suggested by Adam Wason.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up, I should mention, we did make an agenda change. We're moving the item election of officers to the end of the agenda, so we will take that up at the end of our agenda. Thank you. Have a good evening. Next up, we have petitions and remonstrances. This is an opportunity for anyone to make a public comment about something that is not on our agenda this evening. If you'd like to make a public comment about something not on the agenda, and if you are on Zoom, feel free to use the raised hand function or the chat function to let us know. If you're in the room, you are welcome to approach the microphone.
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none. Next is the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda are the minutes for November 3rd of 2025, the minutes from November 18th of 2025, Resolution 2026-010, mobile vendor, Blooming Bowls, right-of-way special event, Candy Stripe Criterium, service agreement with Steve Chafin for right-of-way weed management, outdoor lighting service agreement with Duke Energy for South Jackson Street and South Rogers Street, change order package for Thornton, Arden, Washington Traffic Calming and Greenway Project, and payroll. Do we have any items that need to be removed from the consent agenda this evening? Do we have any public comment on anything within the consent agenda this evening?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting of February 10th, 2026.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have new business. First under new business is approve right-of-way closures for F.A. Wilhelm at the Poplars development.
Good evening, Kyle Ball, right-of-way permitting program manager, once again. Apologies for another wordy request tonight, so I'll just get after it. So F.A. Wilhelm is requesting sidewalk closures, metered parking reservations, and alley closures surrounding the former Poplars building located at 400 East 7th Street. This request includes the eastern sidewalk and the adjacent parking lanes on North Dunn Street, the southern sidewalk at East 7th Street, and the east-west alley between East 6th and East 7th Street. The requested closures are being requested to accommodate the completion of the exterior facade work, which includes the masonry, cleaning, and sealing, followed by sidewalk reconstruction and perimeter landscaping along the east side of the Poplars building there on Dunn Street. So the traffic control on North Dunn Street is proposed to be in place from February 23rd of 2026 through July 17th, 2026. The traffic control on East 7th Street and within the east-west alley between East 6th and 7th Street would remain in place until July 27th, 2026 to support the final concrete work and landscaping associated with the project completion. So July 27th of 2026 is the estimated completion date for the project. So city staff did meet with F.A. Wilhelm to review the scope of work associated with this request and to evaluate if there were any alternate options available that would include pedestrian diversions or roadway closures. And based on the review, the staff determined that the proximity of the work site to the pedestrian facilities could create just undesirable interactions between the work area and that passing traffic. During the same meeting, we did discuss the anticipated timeline for reopening the 7th Street bike lane, and I'm happy to announce that that is on schedule to reopen on March 3rd. At this time, the only remaining expected right-of-way request would surround Grant Street on the west side of the building, where we're going to have a mirror of kind of what we're doing or what's being requested now, the final infrastructure, rebuild, and demo, obviously not in that order. So we're expecting that request to come in at a later date. That's the long and short.
Thank you.
Of course.
Questions from the board on this item?
We expect that additional request that you mentioned would go through only July 27th, 2026
Correct,
at the latest?
correct, yes.
Thank you.
We talked about this quite a bit during the work session. I don't have a lot of questions. I would just ask, is everything going okay, just generally speaking on the project? Like communication's going well? And
Yes. Yeah, happy to speak to that. So I will say, like many projects at the onset of the project, we had issues that we had to work out. Unforeseen site circumstances, unforeseen interactions, things of that nature. F.A. Wilhelm has been great to work with, and honestly, we point to them and their site to other contractors as a good case of what to do right.
All right, very good. Any public comment on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the right-of-way closures for F.A. Wilhelm at the Poplars development.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Crone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have contract addendum to CGR Services Contract for Economic and Sustainable Development Department Bus Stop Project to build additional bus stops.
Hello, Audrey Brittingham. I'm here for Sean Mia from the Economic and Sustainable Development Department, who couldn't be here tonight. This is a contract to add an additional bus stop shelter to an existing project. So CGR has a contract already with the ESD to install 5 bus stop shelters. ESD had an additional bus stop shelter ready to be put in place. They hadn't secured a location yet, so they worked with transit. They subsequently, after entering into the initial contract, secured a location. We determined that the cost to install it would exceed a 20% change order, so they issued an additional bid, and CJR came in yet again as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. So this is a contract for them to install a 6th bus stop shelter.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions from the board?
Just to reiterate from yesterday's work session, the other bus stops are coming along all right, and you're pleased with the way you're working with this particular contractor?
That is my understanding
Great.
from Director Mia. Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the contract addendum to CGR Services Contract for Economic and Sustainable Development Department Bus Stop Project to build additional bus stops.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have contract with Jack Laurie Group for animal care and control cat room floor replacement.
Miranda Beaver, Public Works, for the Public Works Facilities Director, J.D. Boroff. The flooring in the cat room at Animal Care and Control is in need of removal and replacement, and 3 quotes were solicited. Bounds Flooring Incorporated came in at $12,052. Carpets Plus came in at $9,977.12. Jack Laurie Floors, LLC, came in at $7,500. The large difference in the quoted prices comes down to the use of contracted installation, which is utilized by the 2 higher quotes, and Jack Laurie Group does in-house installation, so that would be the difference in those quoted prices there. So the staff recommends the approval of the contract with Jack Laurie Floors.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the contract with Jack Laurie Group for Animal Care and Control cat room floor replacement.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next is staff reports and other business.
We do not have any at this time.
Thank you. Next is approval of claims. Are there any questions from the board on the claims this evening? Any public comments on claims?
None on Zoom.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion on claims?
I move that we approve claims this evening in the amount of $4,718,073.67.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have the election of officers. It is that time of year to select our officers for the Board of Public Works. I would like to make a motion that we elect Elizabeth Crone as president, Kyla Cox Deckard as vice president, and James Roach as secretary.
Do you need a second for that?
I do need a second.
I would love to second that.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. I will open it up in case there are any members of the public who would like to comment on these officers.
We do not have any members of the public on Zoom at this time.
Excellent. All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. I will call the roll. Corone? Aye. Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. And we have nothing else on our agenda, so I will call for adjournment.
Thank you.